What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Odd Popcorn for that review. I'm Chris.
I'm Nick.
And today we're doing something a little different. We haven't tried this before. So, I went and saw Wicked Part 1. He went and saw Gladiator Part 2. Neither of us saw the other movie. So, we don't know how each other feel about this movie. So, we're going to find out in real time. But I kind of want to kick it to you first. What did you think about Gladiator 2? And did you get a chance to rewatch Gladiator 1 before you...
Yeah, I did. I rewatched Gladiator 1 a couple of days before I went and saw Gladiator 2. We'll say they are not dissimilar in the theme of the movie. Mm-hmm. Very similar, you know. It's a story of revenge on Paul Mescal's part. His, spoiler, wife dies very early on.
Mm-hmm. And he's the son of, which I think everybody knows this going into it, right?
He is Maximus's son, which is never said in the first one explicitly, but it's like, I guess, Lucilla was married to a guy who was a gay guy at the time, and she was taking lovers, is what they kind of explained in this Gladiator 2. Mm-hmm. And Maximus, I guess, would have never known he was the father, otherwise I feel like he would have been there. Mm-hmm. Because I was kind of worried about that detracting from him in the first movie being, you know, so loving of his wife and kid, and then fuck this kid, who cares?
Do you think that, like, as far as, like, the story on the two, there's a lot of similarities. Do you think that this did it as well as the first one did? Because the first one kind of, like, skyrocketed Russell Crowe's career, like, won an Oscar, Best Picture. I mean... That was like an iconic movie, you know, so...
I don't think it did. I think this one could have been, like, not made. I think Ridley Scott was like, oh, they're making all these legacy sequels. Let me throw my hat in the ring.
So is that you saying you don't like it, or you think it's just a little, like...
I didn't not like it. It wasn't needed. I don't think this... It was okay, but it definitely... It didn't add anything to the first movie that wasn't already there. And it, like I said, the story is so similar that, like, well, did you really need to tell the same story? It's, you know, you're going to overthrow the Emperor... Mm-hmm. And you're trying to get revenge. And Paul Mescal's part of the revenge is he wants to get on Pedro Pascal's character because he was the general leading the army. I think he might have been the one to take the shot, maybe. Like, kill his wife, I don't remember. They do end up fighting, like, halfway through the movie, or, like, till there's, like, 30 minutes left or something. And then he's, like, Pedro Pascal's pleading, because Pedro Pascal is married to Lucilla now.
Okay.
So, and they've had an interaction with Lucilla and Lucius. And he kind of... forgets about the revenge when he's gonna die. He's like, I still love your mother, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, oh, who cares about killing you then? And then I feel like that part fell off real hard for his whole revenge part. Because he also, when he does interact with his mom, he's like, fuck you, I don't know you, I'm not your son.
So weird relationship kind of thing going on there. So some things that, just based on, from the outside looking in, just based on, like, watching the trailer and things for this, that seem like they might mix it up and make this a different enough, or could have made this a different enough movie from the first one. You have kind of the role that was Joaquin Phoenix's role in the first one. In this one, it's kind of replaced by, like, two brother emperors or something, right?
Yeah, Carcalla and Gaeta.
And I'm sure that there's some kind of incest thing going on there. I don't know. I'm sure they're, like, insane.
Yeah, I think one of them definitely has syphilis that's spreading through the brain.
But I'm sure, like, Denzel had to at least be interesting in this, right? Because he was like to me, he's like the outlier. Like, he's kind of bringing more to the party than it felt like, at least in the trailers, based on the trailers alone, it feels like he's got enough charisma to bring to the game that it could at least be interesting. But it might have felt out of place. You're making the face like it felt out of place.
It kind of felt out of place. He felt very performative.
Okay.
Like he was on stage or something. And he's got, you know, he wasn't the worst. I don't think anybody had a standout performance in any way.
What was his... Because he's not the Emperor, right? So what's Denzel's
he's just like a
job title?
He's not even part of the Senate or anything. He's just... He owns gladiators, like slaves that are gladiators.
Okay.
But he's wanting to become part of the Senate or some kind of form of rule. And he eventually does get this, but he kind of wants the downfall of Rome, is what he wants to happen.
Do they have a story about, like, how a black man in this time period got the position that he got? Like, was he a former... You know what I'm saying?
I don't think he was a former gladiator. I'm trying to think. I don't remember if they did or not. I want to say there wasn't much of a backstory for him, too. If
you had to say, like, a character you felt like most invested in, is that, like, an impossible task? Like, is that the problem with this? Is that you weren't particularly invested in anybody, or was there one person that maybe, like...
Yeah, I would say probably wasn't too invested in any of them. Like, the story overall, it's just the same thing. With different people and slightly varied.
That is the risk you run with a legacy sequel like this, is you kind of have to justify why do we bother to retread this territory,
right?
And so it sounds like maybe maybe not great justification for retraining this year. You know, Ridley Scott was like such. It's hard to like discredit the guy because he did so much in the early days of his career that like revolutionized filmmaking. We got the first Alien movie, we got the first Blade Runner, and even in like slightly more recent, you got like the Martian was great. You know, and I've heard I haven't seen all these, but I've heard good things about like The Last Duel. Like he still makes some good movies, but you do kind of run the risk of like maybe style over substance, or like making a movie for the spectacle of it alone, and you get lost in the like. I heard there's sharks.
Yeah, there's sharks in they have like a naval battle,
like
which apparently was a thing.
Sharks and rhinos and stuff like that.
Just trying to make the gladiator fights even more epic.
But I do think, even before I ever see this movie, and I do intend to watch this movie before the year's over, but I think going into it, you really probably shouldn't be looking for a historical docudrama. Like, you don't really go into this for, like, what actually happened in those... Because what actually happened was they probably didn't want any of these people to die, and it was probably a lot more like WWE, where it's all staged, and you just got to put on a show for the people, but you don't want to kill your best fighters. You want them to stay alive.
Yeah.
So I bet a lot of this is myth. You know, forget the sharks. The
Right,
whole gladiators killing each other thing is probably largely
it was more like medieval times than it is a real fight.
So are the battle scenes and the action scenes at least worth it?
Yeah, I mean those are good. Like they're entertaining. Like it's it's an entertaining movie. It's just kind of.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was entertained, but not like overly so. It was just kind of I'm here watching this movie, not like oh this is fantastic, this is awesome.
Well, so how was going back to the first one then? Like
I don't. It's a good movie, but I mean it's still kind of. I don't know that
maybe
it was
even
like the
maybe
greatest.
even overrated at its time too.
Maybe a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I haven't gone back and I kind of want to I'm going to rewatch the first one again, watch this and see how they compare. But I do anticipate, based on what you're saying, that if there's one worth watching, it's going to be the first one. And you know, maybe if you just love that and can't get enough of it, then watch the second one. But it sounds like you're not getting a whole lot of new stuff on the table.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's hard to beat Russell Crowe and Joaquin Phoenix. Their portrayals and like
and their prime, both of them, you know.
I mean, Joseph Quinn was good as Gaeta. The other guy, I guess, was good as Caracalla, but they're both just kind of crazy guys. They're not have a good motive or anything.
You know, if you've ever seen like Caligula, or, like this is not the first like iteration of like the crazy, syphilitic, insane incest emperor or whatever. Yeah. So I don't know. It sounds like it could be entertaining, but it sounds like it's also not going to be on your like best of the year either.
Nah,
like it's probably not going to win any awards or anything, or maybe it will.
Maybe it will. It could for something.
Did this look like just a CGI fest the whole way through to you?
No.
That was one of my concerns with it. Something this big of a scale with the current technology that we have, like it just looking like a big blob of.
No, I don't think it did. I think the sharks kind of looked CGI, but other than that, I think most, like, the naval battle at the beginning of the movie was good. And I think towards the end they have a battle where it's, like, the Praetorian Guards coming to fight the Roman army. And I think there were, like, thousands of people there, so there wasn't too much CGI in that.
So what do you give it as a score, then? Sounds like maybe a hard one to score. Like some entertaining things there, but maybe not.
It's kind of hard. I'd probably give it, like, probably like a 6. Like it wasn't a bad movie, but it didn't add anything necessarily that I cared about enough, at least.
Would you say that like the Russell Crowe character was a more compelling character than
Lucius? Yeah.
Than Lucius in this? Okay.
Yeah, I would say so. And
I mean, one of the most memorable things to me is the Joaquin Phoenix character in the first one, and even after all these years, I like that character a lot. So hard, big shoes to fill and big sandals to fill in all these roles. And this is a famous score too, and I think this is if I'm not mistaken, this is a shift on who did the score.
I can't even remember it, honestly.
Okay. So. The score for the first one's like really iconic, and I think it's like John Williams, or like it's a big.
I think they bring back. They definitely bring back the song where he's walking through the fields, the Elysian fields. Yeah. And I don't know. Towards the end, they do kind of show that. I think Lucius says something like, "Father, speak to me," as he's sitting there, and then that's how the movie kind of ends. Okay. Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
and like the hand over the wheat, and I don't know if that was like it did look like an older hand, but I doubt they got Russell Crowe just to do that.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't have been older anyway, so who knows?
Right. Yeah, I don't think Russell Crowe came back for this at all. I think he was kind of upset about it, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so six-ish out of 10.
6-ish, yeah.
Okay. Well, I got crazy news then, because I saw Wicked, and I've been very aware of the Broadway musical for a long time. I know a lot of people are huge fans of the Broadway musical. It sounds interesting to me. I've kind of like, through osmosis, I know a little bit about the idea. It's like a subversion of the story you're told with Wizard of Oz is like, no, you've been told it all wrong, you know?
Yeah.
I don't. How much do you know going in?
Do you know
anything about the musical?
I don't know much about the musical. I know it's a prequel to The Wizard of Oz in some fashion.
Sorta, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a
Was it a reimagining?
Yeah, it's almost like you're being you've been told everything from the wrong angle.
Okay.
So, but I'm a very mild musical appreciator. There's some that catch me. You know, I love Chicago. I love Little Shop of Horrors. There's La La Land. There's a handful of them that I really, really enjoy a lot. But I'm not like somebody that's a diehard. I got to go see every musical by any means. And often I find them to be a little irritating, or like it takes you out of it when they break into song and then. But I'm kind of warming up to them as I get older. I just recently watched Amelia Perez and liked that a lot, even though I had to read the whole thing the whole way through. So I'm warming up to them a little bit. So I went into this open-minded, but I knew it's very long, and there was an overabundance of press about this movie that was making it. It's very annoying press. Like all these interviews, I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of talking about it. Let's just see the movie. It's like they started the press way too early. They've done 100 trillion interviews. They're all very weird. But I would suggest going into this and turning all that off. Forget the behind the scenes stuff. It does not matter, because what matters is what's on the screen in front of you. Turn all that off. And I think most people, even the most casual musical enjoyer, are going to find something to like here. And there was a point where I was like trepidation at the beginning. I'm like, I'm not sure yet. But pretty early on, really pretty early on, I'm like, I'm on board. Like I'll see if something throws me off at some point.
Yeah.
Nothing ever did. If anything, I became more sure as the movie goes along that I would sit here for 4 hours and watch this thing, dude. I don't care anymore. Damn. And honestly, it's almost like my freaking cheeks hurt by the time I got out of the theater, because I'm just smiling at how it's like movie making not to say that it reminds me of old movies or anything, but it feels like movie making in the way that movies used to be made, like a little taste of old Hollywood or something. They built these giant, elaborate sets. They built the Emerald City. You can walk around the Emerald City and go into the candy shops and see what kind of candy they got for sale. Stuff that didn't even make it in the movie. Like they were like over detailing.
Yeah.
Like they were like living in Emerald City, living in the Land of Oz, living in. So as much as they could do is real. Flying monkeys, you got to do CGI. There's some stuff you have to do CGI.
Right.
But like a lot of this is real, and the set design I felt like it felt like how I felt about like Poor Things, or like some of the best set designs I've seen. So set designs, but it had like the whimsy of something like Wonka. So
yeah.
It felt a little bit like Wonka, the Timothy Chalamet Wonka. It felt a little bit like the way you feel when you first see like the Technicolor world of the Wizard of Oz. It's no more black and white anymore. Did they have a scene
like that in this movie?
No black and white, but the colors are like amped up to 11,
vivid,
like that Technicolor style color. They really love green and pink throughout this, so the interplay of green and pink is really cool. But just every little detail, the costume design made me feel a little bit like some of the best costume design in like the Hunger Games movies or something like that. There's a lot of this that reminds me of, and I'm sure this comparison was made 20 years ago when the play came out, but it reminds me at times of Harry Potter, because they're basically going to like a wizard college.
Okay.
So there's things that'll definitely, you can't escape the comparison to that. There's things that remind me a little bit of like Fantastic Beasts. The best things about Fantastic Beasts, there's like talking animals, there's like animal professors, and there's a whole subplot about like we're basically finding out that in this world animals and humans are just different looking the same thing.
Okay.
And there's a whole, I won't get into the spoiler level of it, but there's a whole thing about like this might be the beginning of animals becoming what we think of animals as. So this is like they used to be able to talk and stuff.
Oh, maybe this is like the prequels of Planet of the Apes or something, or
yeah, not quite, but you find out the origin of a lot of things that you get in Wizard of Oz. But this begins with the aftermath of the end of Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
And we're celebrating the Wicked Witch being killed, and then we get Glinda telling us like, let's go back to the beginning, and here's how it all started. And so you get this reversal of you think of Glinda as being exclusively good from The Wizard of Oz, and you think of Elphaba as being the Wicked Witch of the West, and it's very simple and it's very black and white, and it's like
it's not so much.
Because somebody says like we like do like a Wicker Man style burning of an effigy of the witch, and we're all celebrating the Wicked Witch's dead, and we're singing songs and stuff, and then somebody's like, "Wasn't she your friend though?" And she's like, "What's that?" And she pops the bubble that she comes down in, and she's like, "What's that again?" And she's like, "Weren't you guys friends?" And she was like, "Well, we ran into each other." And then you find out like there's this whole thing, and there's things that remind me of Mean Girls, like the plastics, and there's that kind of interplay. And I'm sure this all came out in 2003, so it was like peak. All this stuff is coming out, Mean Girls and Clueless and yada yada. So it's got some of those vibes. But man, I just could not believe. I do not feel like the target audience for this movie, and I'm like obsessed.
It kind of gives me some hope about seeing it, because I don't like. It's definitely not up my alley for musicals and stuff, and I don't really care about The Wizard of Oz.
Sure, me either.
So how is Ariana Grande? Because that's one of the things from the trailers that really makes me like I don't want to see it.
It was Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande were the things I was most skeptical about. I don't know Cynthia Erivo for much. She's had a lot of weird press about her. I don't know Ariana Grande. I like Ariana Grande's music for what it like. I like a wide variety of music, and I like her music, but I've never seen her as an actor. And I know she started as an actor on kids shows that I didn't watch, so I didn't see that, and I don't think that's a good thing to measure it by. No. But so I was skeptical about this. I know she can sing, she can knock out a tune, and she can like do like whistle, like Mariah Carey whistle notes and dolphin sounds and stuff like that. So she's got that licked, but didn't know if she could act. And she is absolutely the driving force of the comedy in this movie, 100%. Like people were dying laughing in the theater over some of her stuff. Jeff Goldblum's great. He's basically playing Jeff Goldblum, but it's like the perfect. The Wizard of Oz is a great role for him to be Jeff Goldblum in.
It's very narcissistic.
And he's spry as ever. You'd never know he's 72 years old. You get a cameo from Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel, who were the first, like the Elphaba and Glinda from the music from the Broadway play, the original ones. I just think everybody that. I can't imagine how. I didn't see the Broadway play, but I can't imagine how you could find this disappointing. The music is next level. People already love the music anyway. And if you're new to it, like me, and you didn't see the musical, and you're even like the most novice entry-level fan of musicals at all, this is a great place to start. And I didn't even like. It didn't bother me that it's like kid-friendly too. Like it's not like so kid-targeted. It's just like you could take your kids to this, and there's nothing gonna offend anybody or anything like that. Right. So it's crazy, dude. I don't know where the flaws are. I don't know where the flaws are. There's maybe a couple songs that I don't love as much. I'm sure they're from the original musical, and it's not. I don't find myself thinking about that 1 second after I walk out of the theater. I just think about the positives.
So, it is a part 1. There is going to be a part 2 then?
It's a part 1, and that can detract from things, but. Some movies you see and they feel like a definitive part 1, and you leave feeling unsatisfied, like now I have to know where it goes next and I gotta wait. This first act of this play is meant to end on a curtain drop, and it's designed in such a way that the first part of this feels like a cohesive arc, and now we want to know what happens next, but it's not like they ended it on the part of the play where the intermission happens.
Oh, now I have to come back and see this movie.
It makes you look forward to see the next one, but it's not like you felt like you got a satisfying here we go, and you know where things are kind of going next, but you want to know more about what's going to happen next. So it made me want to go rewatch Wizard of Oz again. It made me feel a lot more open-minded to musicals that I've been holding off on watching for a long time. It's just that was a really, really good, like, I had no idea it would be in my top 30 of the year, and I feel like it's going to be in the top 10.
So I'm curious, what would you score it then?
I think I almost want to give it a 10.
Wow.
But there's little things that maybe draw it back. It's just like, am I trying to give it less than a 10? Because the only things are like little tiny things like that. Like there's some songs that are a little forgettable, didn't add a whole lot. But I think even those moments, they were needed to move a little thing along. And they're like not even full songs. They're like 10 seconds. So I don't know where the flaws are, man. I give out probably too many 10s, but this is in my top. It's going to be hard to kick this out of my top 5 of the year. We have good stuff coming soon, hypothetically. Nosferatu and Baby Girl. There's things that we're excited about before the year's over. The Brutalist. But it's gonna be interesting if this is out of my top 5.
That's pretty wild. I didn't really expect that.
I didn't either.
Okay.
I didn't either. It's wild, especially if you're a fan of musicals. You're gonna end up seeing this more than one time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just. If you look on like websites that rate movies, it is very positively reviewed. There's not much dissent from this. People that are fans of the musical love it. People that are new to it love it. There's people that are gonna say this is the only musical they've liked in years. They just nailed it, and it doesn't. It's long. It's longer than your movie.
Yeah.
It was 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
Wow.
And I didn't look at my watch, like my phone once. I didn't care. I could have sat there for longer. Wild. I guess I'm going to go 10 out of 10.
Okay.
You know, who cares?
You liked it.
Who cares? That's 10 out of 10. I don't know what was wrong with it, so I'm going high. But yeah, I guess that's it for us, guys. So make your own. You got 2 good movies to watch. If Gladiator is more your speed, go check that out. You might like it more than Nick, or you might feel the same way.
Yeah,
just be entertained with what you saw.
I could see people liking it more than me for sure, but
but yeah, I think you got two good choices this week if you're not too busy with the Thanksgiving holiday. But we appreciate you watching, guys. As always, if you're new here, subscribe, comment down below, let us know which one of these you saw, or if you managed to squeeze both in. And yeah, click like down below. That helps us a lot too. Helps people see these videos. Lets us know you like what we're doing. But yeah, we'll catch you in the next one, guys. Thanks for watching.
See ya.